I'm clicking record for you. Okay, it's recording now. Okay, as I was saying, everyone, so by doing one ruku a day, inshallah, we will by the end of the month have completed the full Surah Baqarah. You would have heard it being recited, as well as the tafsir, inshallah. So let's start the journey. Personally, I am massively looking forward to it. It's very exciting. I know many people have a particular love for Surah Baqarah, but myself included, myself particularly, Surah Baqarah is one of those surahs that just encapsulates so much. We're going to be discussing every single theme and motif of Islam under the sun. It will all come with Surah Baqarah, inshallah. And there's just so much to learn from this surah, so please do keep tuning in for all 30 days. You can invite anyone to learn from this session as well, inshallah. Do invite them to tune in as well. So, starting off with ayah number 1, Alif Lam Mim, as everyone can see here. Alif Lam Mim. This is what we call in Islam the Haruf al-Muqatta'at, which just means in English the cut letters. These are letters which are cut off from the rest of the Quran. They don't flow in an ayah. They are not exactly part of a normal semantic sentence. It doesn't hold meaning as we know of it. No one knows what these words mean. They're letters, they're cut letters, they're literally letters cut out of the alphabet and put at the beginning of some surahs, and no one knows what they mean. This is something that Allah has done clearly deliberately, because He doesn't do this anywhere else in the Quran. But Allah also has not told us what these Haruf al-Muqatta'at mean. Therefore, no one can actually translate this. There have been people who have tried. There have been scholars who have tried to translate or figure out the hidden meaning, the underlying mystery of the Haruf al-Muqatta'at. For example, Shah Waliullah and many other scholars of different creeds and different backgrounds have tried to figure out what they mean, but the honest answer is no one really knows. Now, with that being said, there are a few things that are worth mentioning that come every single time you see a Haruf al-Muqatta'at. Every single time you see one of these Haruf al-Muqatta'at, whether it's Alif Lam Mim, whether it's Yasin, whether it's Taha, any of these Haruf al-Muqatta'at, you'll find that the Quran is very swiftly mentioned afterwards. The Quran comes very quickly. Right after the Haruf al-Muqatta'at, there's a mention of the Quran. And we see that here, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. This is the book in which there is no doubt. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is a guidance for those who have taqwa, for those who are the muttaqeen. Now, what does it mean to be muttaqeen? You've heard this term thrown around a lot. Of course you have. It's one of the most involved and weighty terms in Islam, but essentially means someone who is God conscious. They are someone who's a muttaqi. They're someone who is known by Allah and is defined by Allah to be part of the muttaqeen, someone who's God conscious. Some people translate this as someone who fears Allah. But our religion isn't a religion of fear exactly. We do have this element of knowing that what we have done wrong is wrong. But Allah isn't just a Lord of fear. We have to understand this. So just translating this as fearing Allah is doing an injustice to the word itself. The word is much deeper than that. لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, people who actually are conscious of Allah. Now, let's talk about this ayah. As soon as Alif Lam Mim is recited, we move on to ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That is the book, or this is the book, i.e. the Quran, in which there is no doubt, and it is a guidance for those who have taqwa, for those who are the muttaqeen. Think about every single book you've ever read in your life, my brothers and sisters. For half a second, just think about every single book you've ever read. Every time you read a book, it doesn't matter what the book is. I could pick up a random book and you flip to the front of your book. You'll see, what does it say? Every single book is the same. It says the same thing at the beginning of every single book in the world. If we have made any mistakes, if there are any doubts in the book, if there's anything wrong in the slightest, then the fault is ours, the ones who have written the book. Please do let us know so we can fix it. Essentially, people know that there's going to be problems in their books, even after they've checked it a few times. This is just a fact. This is just what happens. And there will always be things that are changing. As time goes on, people will notice mistakes. Things will happen. Allah, on the opposite end of the spectrum, starts off His book, starts off His kitab by saying, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. That is the book in which there is no doubt. There's no error. There's no problem. There's nothing that you could be mistaken about. Nothing whatsoever. Allah takes what everyone else does on the complete other end of the spectrum and flips it on its head. Allah doesn't make mistakes, and this book, if you read it properly and if you really give your life, heart and soul to it, and you genuinely try to make an effort to understand this book of Allah, this book of our Lord, it's going to be a guidance for you. There's no doubts in it, there's no discrepancies. But what it is a shining light for all of us. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. Who are the muttaqeen? Allah goes on to elaborate, Allah goes on to explain that the muttaqeen are the ones who believe in the unseen. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. And they uphold, they pray, salah. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And from that which we've given them, from their sustenance, from their money, from their wealth that we've given them, they spend. Now think about this very deeply, my brothers and sisters. To be someone who's really conscious of Allah, you have to do a few things. One is you have to have iman. You have to believe in Allah even though you can't see Him. You have to be able to believe in the jinns even though you can't see them. You believe in the angels even though you can't see them. This is just the first thing that makes everyone a Muslim. This is iman, belief in the unseen, belief in Allah, most importantly. However, that's not all it takes. You also, Allah says, to be a muttaqi, to be someone who's really God conscious of Allah, you should be someone who upholds the salah. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. But not only are you someone who prays regularly, or are you someone who upholds the salah, but you should be spending from that which we've given you. Who gave you your money? That's my question, genuine question out there. Who has given you your money, my brothers and sisters? You might think you've earned it yourself. Everyone thinks that they're the ones who put their money on the table. If it wasn't for them, the money wouldn't be there. I agree with you, you've worked hard. I'm not denying this. No one's taking this away from you. Everyone works hard for their money. I 100% agree with you there. But it could have been in so many other ways. You could have been on the other side of the world, working 21-hour shifts to make 80p a day. This is reality. There is a man in Bangladesh who literally worked for 21 years, making roughly 80p a day, just so he could save up enough money to go to Hajj for him and his wife. Imagine that. Yes, you made your money, my brothers and sisters, but Allah's given you what you have in this world right now. You're making what you're making living in the UK. You didn't just get this situation and this place. Allah put you here. You aren't where you are today just because of you. Allah's put His favor on us. And if we forget that, if we forget what Allah's actually done for us, where are we? You know, the scholars of Islam, they said, how can humanity, how can human beings like you and I, human beings like you and me, how can we be proud of what we've done when we passed through the passage of urine twice? Before we were born, no one would have looked at us, touched us, because we know where we came from. What we started from was dirt. We started quite literally from something disgusting, but Allah has raised us. Allah has brought us to where we are today. Allah put that shelter over our head. Look at this beautiful house that we have. Look at your house right now. This short session isn't just for me to speak. I'm genuinely asking you, my brothers and sisters, look around you right now. Do it. Who put you here? Allah put us here. We didn't get here. The money we have, I understand you earned it, but Allah's given it to you ultimately. Allah put you here. Don't forget that. So when you have money, when you have sustenance, spend even a bit of it in the path of Allah. And by doing such, you become more God conscious. And by becoming more God conscious, your life will get better and ultimately you'll get Jannah. No one's regretted charity. No one's regretted praying more. That doesn't happen. By praying more and giving more charity, Allah is saying you're going to be happier, you're going to be more of a muttaqi. I know the world is tough. I'm not denying that. I know you're going through hard times. I know you've been through hard times. That is the nature of the dunya. But Allah is not telling you that it's not going to be tough. In fact, Allah very clearly says the opposite many times in the Quran. Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam very clearly says, "Ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir." The dunya is a prison for the believer, and it's a paradise for the disbeliever. We know this is going to be hard. I'm not denying that, but I'm saying, and Allah is saying, more importantly, you remember Allah, you uphold your prayers, and you spend in the way that Allah has given you money to spend. You're going to be a muttaqi. You're going to be more God conscious. And what does that mean? You will be more content. When Allah mentions salah, imagine this, understand this, remember this. When every time Allah mentions salah, zakah comes. Every time Allah mentions prayer, He mentions zakah very, very soon after. Think about that for a second. You think you are who you are. You think you're a good Muslim just because you pray regularly or you pray here and there. Every time Allah mentions salah, He mentions zakat as well. Clearly, they're both very, very much of the same caliber. You cannot be a complete Muslim if you're just praying and not giving your zakat. They're so important in balance. And the fact that it comes 28 times in the Quran, every single time it comes with zakat, that's saying something. We have to be more charitable in our lives. Giving charity does not diminish your wealth in the slightest. When have you ever given charity, my brothers, and it hasn't come back to you 700 times more than you gave in the first place? Every single year you're living, Allah's giving you more than you ever had before. I know there are times you get dips, but giving charity has never ultimately decreased your wealth. It will come back to you. Allah promises it will come back to you. So don't ever be stingy with your wealth. Just the fact that Allah holds it in such high regard is enough for us, surely. The scholars say, as you can see here, people who believe in the unseen, pray their salah and give zakat, they are from the muttaqeen, yes? They are from the ones who have got consciousness. The scholars mention that anyone who, and think about it for a second, these are three pillars, aren't they? Iman is a pillar of Islam, i.e. Tawheed, or saying, I believe in Allah and I believe in the unseen. This is the first pillar of Islam, isn't it? The second pillar of Islam is to perform your prayers, to give your salah in the way of Allah. Salah is the second pillar of Islam, and the third pillar of Islam is zakat, fundamentally accepted. We all know this. The scholars say whoever upholds these three pillars of Islam, the other two will become very, very easy for them. You name me someone who prays and they give their zakat and they don't fast regularly. Tell me someone who really prays on the dot and they really try with their zakat and they don't end up eventually going to Hajj. Allah will make the last three easy for you, as so long as you guard the first three. And the fact that you're in this chat today, my brothers and sisters, tells me that the first one's already there. You believe in Allah, you believe in the unseen. Clearly you're a Muslim, alhamdulillah for that. But it's about just doing these two pillars of Islam fundamentally, properly, and with conviction. I know it can be difficult at times, but uphold your salah and give your zakat properly. You know, even Orientalist scholars, Western scholars who have no love for Islam, they say, if Muslims were to give their zakat properly, everyone in the world, imagine this, there would be no poverty left in the Muslim Ummah. Western Orientalist academics tell us this. They don't even like Islam. They hate everything we stand for, and they're telling us, they write in their articles, if Muslims were to actually have done this properly, it's an amazing thing, right? If Muslims were to do their zakat properly, there would be no poverty in the Muslim world. Think about it. How many millionaires do we have amongst our ummah? How many people would that have helped? But we don't give our zakat properly. وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. And the ones who believe in what was revealed upon them and revealed to the ones before them, and in the akhirah they have yaqeen, they have conviction, full belief that the akhirah exists. Believing in the akhirah, my brothers and sisters, means, and this is what it boils down to, it means remembering death regularly. And don't worry, this isn't going to be a long session, inshallah. I want it to be short every single night. I want it to be short. I want it to be something that we really pay attention to and we can change the following day because of it. So let's keep it short, inshallah. I want you to hear and understand this properly. Allah always mentions remembering the akhirah, or having conviction in the akhirah, believing wholeheartedly the akhirah exists. Why? Of course we believe in the akhirah. That's part of being a Muslim, we know this. Why does Allah mention it so much? Because we always forget about death. When was the last time we thought about death? Think about it. When was the last time you really thought about death and it's happening to me like any second? When was the last time you thought like that? The only time we remember death, my brothers and sisters, is when someone passes away. Why? Because I understand our society hates the concept of death. Every secular society does. Society doesn't like to think about death. It's a disgusting thing. But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions were not like this. Some people mention in regards to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he would remember death. First, we know he would remember death every single day. But some scholars would even mention that he would remember death up to 72 times a day. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. What we do know is he would remember death at least every single day. That much is guaranteed. That much everyone agrees to. When was the last time we remember death every single day? Because when you remember death, when you remember inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that indeed is to Allah that we belong and Allah we're going to return, that's when we really act how we should act. That's when we stop wasting our time. That's when we remember the taker away of all desires. The Prophet ﷺ said, death is an end to comfort. Remember often the destroyer of all pleasures. What is the destroyer of all pleasures? Death. If we don't remember this concept frequently, of course we're going to go off the rails. That's to put it bluntly. I'm sorry to be so explicit, but that's what's going to happen. When you push away the concept of death from your mind all the time and you don't want to think about it, what happens? You forget everything about your faith. You forget everything that your life is for. What's the point of being alive? So that we know that we're going to Jannah, inshallah. We act in the correct way and that we build Jannah for ourselves. But we're not building a Jannah for ourselves when we keep pushing away the thought of death. So embrace it. I know it's the opposite of what every societal member would tell you, but I'm telling you very clearly, stop pushing death away. It's going to happen. You're not going to overcome death by pushing it away all the time. How you will overcome death, my brothers and sisters, is not feeling as though it's the enemy here, but feeling as though we want to get ourselves ready for it. There's a subtle difference there. Do you feel like you're ready? Can we honestly say to ourselves that I'm ready to die tonight? I know no one wants to die. But if the answer to that is a very wholehearted no, then there must be something that we aren't happy with. If we know we wouldn't want to die in the state we are right now, why? Because you're not happy with what you're doing. But it can happen tonight. It really can. It can be tomorrow, it can be in a week, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen very soon. You just don't know when. 70 years are going to pass like this if you think you're going to go to another 70 years. Time is going to go very fast, but it could literally happen tomorrow. You know this. You're more likely to die. Statistics shows you're more likely to die on the car journey to a roller coaster than you are on the roller coaster itself. If that's how frequent injuries and deaths can happen in this world, and we've seen so many people pass away, friends, family, you know this is to be the case. How can we pretend it's not going to happen to us? So the people who remember death frequently and they think about what that has been revealed to them, i.e. in our case, the Quran, as well as the things that have been revealed before. We believe in the Bible, we believe in the Torah, we believe in the Injil, etc., etc. We believe in all the past books. أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. Those are the ones, upon them is guidance from their Lord. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And these people who really think about these core tenets, who think about these principles, who thinks about death, who uphold their salah, who do these things that we've mentioned thus far, they are going to be so successful. Allah is telling you now, you are going to be so successful. You're not going to regret a second of what you did. Don't die, my brothers and sisters, in regret. That's what everything in our faith boils down to. People say, even if Islam wasn't to be true, it is, but even if it wasn't, that they know they'd be happy living the way Islam asks us to live. That's saying something. Allah's telling you very clearly, you're going to be so successful if you follow these very simple things. And just two more ayahs now. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. Indeed, the ones who disbelieve, i.e. the kafirun. By the way, kafir isn't a disbeliever. Kafir doesn't just mean disbeliever. The word kafara and kafir is someone who covers up the truth. That's where it stems from. And therefore, someone who is always covering up the truth of Islam, for example, they are by extension a disbeliever. Does that make sense? How that translation comes out now. Indeed, the ones who always cover up the truth, in this case, سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ, is the same. أَأَنذَرْتَهُمْ, whether you warn them, أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ, you don't warn them, لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Someone who's so stern and adamant and obstinate that they're not going to believe no matter what you tell them. Allah is telling the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ here that what can you do? You've tried your best. If they're not going to let truth come into their heart, whether you warn them or you don't warn them, if they're not going to believe. This was a message to the Prophet ﷺ when he was going through a really tough time. You see, the Prophet ﷺ, when he first got the message of Islam, he couldn't even believe it, that he was a prophet of God. And secondly, throughout his whole life, Allah always reassures him, look, you are a prophet. Allah's always reassuring him, don't be sad. Allah's always reassuring him, I know you're trying. Allah doesn't say, I know you're trying your best, but essentially messages in the Quran always crop up that essentially equate to comfort for the Prophet ﷺ. You're doing your best. That's all you can do. The Prophet ﷺ is being consulted, and he's always trying to give that one. He's always trying to point people to the truth of Islam. But people just don't listen. And sometimes it does take a long time. Here. And this is a comfort to ourselves as well. There might be friends and family that you have that you always try to get to perhaps change a little bit. And we all have this in our friends and family circles. We know this. There might be people who always trying to change. Allah is telling you here, there are just some people, no matter how hard you try, they're not going to believe. They're not going to believe. So you try your best. And this is what you need to take away from this, my brothers and sisters. You try your best. You do what you can. 110% you try. Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Noah, tried for 950 years. Okay? We can't give up after 5 days, right? You try and you try and you try. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You've tried your best. That's all that matters, that you put in that 120%. Khatam Allah, and this is the last part, my brothers and sisters. Khatam Allah ala qulubihim wa ala sam'ihim. Allah has sealed their hearts. Wa ala sam'ihim. And over their ears, wa ala abasarihim, or over their hearing and over their eyes, over their eyesight, ghishawa is a cover, is a veil. Wa lahum adhabun azim. And for them is an extreme punishment. Essentially, what does it mean? Allah has actually made them disbelieve? No. Allah is saying here, those people who have disbelieved and disbelieved and disbelieved, and no matter how hard you try, they're not willing to accept the truth. They have made it such that their hearts are being more and more covered and more shriveled and more darkened. There are so many hadith. I could name so many hadith for you that are all about what happens when you sin and you disbelieve and your heart darkens and darkens and darkens. Essentially, when someone is just so obstinate in this way, Allah is saying they are literally making it such that their heart in this case is becoming more constricted and darker and more sealed each and every time. This is what's happening. And over their ears and over their eyesight, no matter what is a veil, no matter what you do, try to reason with them through acoustic frames or oral or nasal or any of the senses, nothing gets through to them. This is what it has come to, Allah is saying. وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ. There's just a veil. They're just not willing to accept at this point. Their heart has become hard to the truth. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And for these people is an extreme punishment. People who just are not willing to even listen, like they're not going to listen to 1% of what you're saying here. You've tried, okay, but you and they have to understand that their hearts have become hard in this case and become sealed. Now, how does this apply to us? And I'm going to finish with this, inshallah. This ayah is clearly about disbelievers, so how does it apply to us? What can we possibly take from this? How often do we change? That's my question. Myself, for example, I had a teacher once called Mufti Tayyib Patel. He's a brilliant man, an absolute inspiration. But I used to really be a very different person, as you could say. At one point in time, I was very naughty as a kid, and you get the idea. I used to cause him so much grief. And he said something to me once when we're in the breakout room in school. He said to me, "When are you going to change?" And he had so much love for me. So when he said that, I could tell that this was really heartfelt and he really meant it. And he really just wanted me to just figure out that I need to stop messing around like as I am and just really change, because he believed in me. Every Muslim has so much potential, my brothers and sisters. We have so much potential. When was the last time we really took a step back and thought to ourselves, are we trying to change or not? When was the last time we literally said to ourselves, I need to be more modest. I'm not this perfect human being that I always, whether I say out loud or not. We're proud. Oftentimes we're very proud of ourselves and we think we are a lot better than we are. But that's not what life is about. Life is about, even if everyone else is saying you're amazing, even if everyone else is saying you're good and you're doing well, that we need to ask ourselves, is my heart proud and therefore slowly sealed? Or am I always trying to change and become better and be modest in what I'm doing and willing to hear what everyone has to say? Every criticism, I should be ready to take it. Umar radiallahu anh, the second caliph of Islam, Orthodox Sunni Islam, he would open, and he was the strictest, like people were scared of him. He would openly go out in public and say to the people criticizing, I'm your leader, I'm your Muslim leader, tell me how I should change. When was the last time you wanted to change? Or have our hearts become sealed? And with that, I will end, inshallah al-aziz. Subhanaka rabbana rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Tomorrow, my brothers and sisters, please pay attention. We're going to be doing ayahs from 7, from the start of ayah 8, where it says wa minan nasi man yaqulu, from the start of ayah 8 to the end of ayah 21. from the start of ayah 8 to the end of ayah 21. Read this to yourself. Read this, inshallah, during the day. Get used to the ayahs. So when you hear Sheikh Sab, Sheikh Ahmed recite 12 o'clock tomorrow, it really strikes a chord. It's so much more powerful when you've read it a few times and you hear it being recited again from another person rather than hearing for the first time. So go over it a few times, go over the translation once or twice, think what am I taking from it, and then when we come to the tafsir, inshallah, we learn and we take it so much more. That's my request to all of you, inshallah. And jazakallah khair for all of your participation. Please do try to encourage more people to come. We're only here for another 28 days. And that's it. We're not going to get Ramadan again. So let's make it one to count, inshallah. I'm going to stop now, inshallah, and I'm going to leave the meeting. If the organizers want to say anything, they can. Okay. I don't think anyone's going to be saying anything. I'll see you all tomorrow, inshallah, at midnight. Assalamu alaikum.